The first consideration when teaching a young novice driver the basics of driving is who should be doing the teaching. The factors that should be considered are who has the time, who has the patience, who has training or teaching experience, do they have a good interpersonal relationship with the novice driver. In a nuclear family, this task often defers to the man, but this is not always the best person. Maybe the novice driver will react better to a woman or a person outside the immediate family. So an important question to ask is, who does the novice driver react better to, male or female coaches or teachers, and of what age? And then, is such a person available and interested? My daughter doesn't really have a choice. Someone with 24 years of driver training experience, or my wife who is an accountant. When done well, teaching someone to drive creates memories, relationship strengthening bonds, and passes on potentially life-saving skills, knowledge, and attitudes. When done badly, teaching someone to drive can end in tears, anger, and bad memories. So the selection of who should be doing the teaching is a critical decision. Increasingly around Australia, there are organisations like PCYCs and driving schools that own a driving simulator, many of which my company built and supplied to them together with a range of driver training videos and supporting content. These simulators are a great place to start any training, as there is no risk of a crash and no damage that can occur to the vehicle. They are a stress-free location to introduce the basic controls and techniques before moving to a real car. When real driver training is to commence, a location with very low traffic volumes needs to be found. This could be a dead-end series of streets in a rural area, a new housing estate, or an industrial area on weekends. You should scout out a possible location before the first day, and if this location becomes too busy, look for an alternative. If you have access to a suitable piece of private land, like a farm, and have the permission of the landowner, this becomes a great starting location. Driving practice can commence with no legal issues when they are much younger. There is less stress with no traffic, and if using a four-wheel drive vehicle, the vehicle can be put into low range, and then the speeds are lowered, and the learner can practice steering and low-speed manoeuvring without being able to go too fast. A shopping centre car park is usually not appropriate, because even though a vehicle driven by a learner with an open licence holder passengering, correctly displaying L plates is legal, the shopping centre management owns this land, and therefore security will probably ask you to move on. Whilst training at night, or in traffic, or in bad weather will be important later on, early practice needs to be done at low traffic times like weekends, during daylight hours, with reasonable weather. There should be as little stress as possible on the instructor and on the student. If you find the right location at the right time, the learner and the supervisor can simply focus on driving without the stress of dealing with traffic and being under the gaze of others. Now, in some families there might be limited options, but ideally where possible the learner should start in an automatic, small to medium-sized car or SUV. You only get one chance to start. You don't want to overwhelm or scare yourself or the learner with a manual or a sports car or a large sedan. Yes, eventually the learner needs to drive larger and different vehicles, but if the first 10 minutes of driving experience is a disaster, it could scare them off learning altogether. A smaller vehicle will be easier to manoeuvre. Automatic is better, as the initial hours of training are just about the basics of moving off, slowing down, steering and reversing. Neither of you needs the stress of learning to operate a clutch and changing gears at this point. Insurance ramifications will need to be investigated, as your insurance company will need to know a novice and inexperienced driver is operating the vehicle. This is another good reason to use a cheaper, smaller car than an expensive car that will probably have no insurance coverage for a learner. Depending on your location, there will be laws around the fitment of L plates to warn other motorists that the driver is a learner. Make sure you display these plates clearly so approaching traffic is warned the driver is inexperienced. It worries me when these plates are put behind tinted windows or some obscure spot and the approaching traffic cannot see them. These clip plates are a great idea, since you fold them down when needed and up when the adult is again driving. Our driver training support doesn't stop there. If you go to our YouTube channel at SDT Australia, You'll find videos on the various courses we offer, plus over 40 free-to-access videos on safe driving. These include videos on the correct use of roundabouts, traffic light tips, braking distance comparisons, crash testing that we have performed, tyre safety, carjacking prevention, and the list goes on and on and on. So please feel free to access these videos, and I hope they support the training you are planning to deliver. In all segments of this video, when a learner is driving, the filming is done by a backseat passenger or a fixed camera. In all segments where filming is done from the front seat, the vehicle is parked or the driver is not a learner. When a learner is driving on the road, the front seat adult supervisor cannot be distracted or impaired. This supervisor cannot be using a mobile phone for any reason.